Hello and welcome to Illustrator. If you haven't done so already, you're going to want to open up the AI for Adobe Illustrator and make sure it is 2024. It updated just a couple of weeks ago in 2023, ready for the new year with some cool features, nothing we're going to go out of our way for today. If you've used Illustrator before, you may have had files here, just like this, but we're going to select a new file. Just click on New File, and if you've used any recent templates, they would be right here, okay? While I'm here, I just want to double check that the record is going well. Perfect. So, as we continue, I am going to start in our film and video, as this is a natural place for us to begin. I'll double click on film and video, and you'll see 720, 1080, 4K, and what I believe to be the unnecessary 8K. So for this project, we're going to start with 1080. We're just going to select it for now, and we'll come over here, and we'll just call this AVT Graphics. Please feel free to call it however you want to. This is just the easiest way for me, and we're going to double check that it's 1920 by 1080, and of course it is horizontal. Everything looks great as well. The color mode we're going to work in is RGB as opposed to CMYK, because we know screens are RGB. I do want to select more settings. Sometimes when we go in here it gets a little goofy. So we're going to make sure we go back to our profile of film and video, as it lost that, and we go back to 1080. But what I'm going to do here, and this is the main goal, is to change this transparent grid to off for our main project. I will show you as we continue why the transparent grid can be a bit strange to work with. But I'm ready to go ahead and create my document. So here we have our artboard, which is 1920 by 1080. And if your screen does not look like my screen, that's okay. We are going to go ahead and go up to the very corner here and switch workplaces to Essential Classic. I do that, and I still have some strange windows hanging out. So I'm going to do it again and go down to Reset Essentials Classic. Okay. So now that our Essentials Classic, is set, everyone's artboard should work the same. If you had a problem changing your workspace, you may want to just go under Window, Workspace, Essentials Classic, and the reset of Essentials Classic. Okay. I'm going to make my window a little bigger, but first, let's see what we're working with today. So I go into my notes, and right here is the example of what we're going to be dealing with today. Oh, it did move. Okay. So I just keep it in my notes there, and it is just a rough example, and I'm going to bring it in here. All right, so it's a little big. I don't need it that big. So I'm going to do Option Shift. Option Shift on the keyboard allows me to scale things in from the middle, and maybe I want it about that big, and I'm just going to throw it off to the side as our reference. So as we look at what we're going to be dealing with today, okay, the proper way to zoom in and out is Command plus and minus. Okay, I had that flipped, but Command plus will bring you in. Of course, Command minus will do that. And if you need to change your location, you can hit the space bar and move it with the hand tool. Take your hand off the space bar and you're good. Okay, so we have a lot of white design. Okay, and so you see that a lot here. In the background, of course, is just the fill of the background, so we can work with something. And then we go to color banners and things along that. So as you're designing, of course, I don't want to have you perfectly calculate how many pixels from pixels I am or anything like that. I could definitely give a detailed breakdown of this, but it's really to taste. I'm going to be playing with different fonts, different styles, stuff like that all throughout our build. we're going to be designing within 10 layers. And the layers are important because we want to organize even the smallest little details into something that is adequate for our project if we need to reorder it or if we need to change things regarding specific details on specific notes. Okay, I just want to take a moment, last moment here, to make sure that my levels are coming in great and that you hear me okay before we dive deep into this. So let me just push my levels up a little bit and we're looking good? There we go. Okay, it's kind of hard to host and record and work on it all at the same time. So I'm going to close that out. Thank you. You may have not seen anything, but I was just making sure the record was going well. Now that this is in, we're going full size, okay? So we have a lot going on. Here is our artboard, and it has the outer line, which would be the end of the screen. And of course, this inner line is your action safe, and this most inner line is your title safe. And so when we're doing thirds, we're kind of hanging out in this space here. But the first thing I need to do before I can start making our triangles or anything like that is create a rectangle that we can work on. So I'm going to come over to my tools over here on the left, and I'm going to select my rectangle tool. And any tool that has a little arrow next to it, let me show you, excuse me, oops, we'll just cancel that for right now. And I'm going to scroll in, and you see that these little arrows, that means that when pressed and held, they are able to showcase other tools underneath them. Okay, let's scroll back out. So right now I just need the most basic of a rectangle, and we're going to come up to the corner here, and you can see it spot on gets us to the corner, and I'm just dragging it out and with my trackpad, and it goes on. Let me try to get it on. Oh, right there. All right, so if you noticed in the corner there, the actual pixels were off a little bit, and I think that might be because we have a stroke on. And we don't need a stroke here, so when we click on this, right here is none, and the stroke goes away. It's on by default, don't worry about it. But the color I want to change from white, because it looks like I didn't do anything, to a perfect gray, which is this line right here. And if you stop right about here, there is R102, G102, and B102, and we can click that. You can see I've used it before. Okay, this is just my background layer. This is not a layer I'm going to design on, but a layer I'm going to build upon. So if we go down this side, we have our layers. It looks like a little s'mores or rectangles, squares on top of each other, and layer 1 is right here. Double click the layer 1 and just write background, or BKGD. Oops, D. There we go. And now we're going to lock it. There's a little space between the eye heading over that we hit lock right here, and we're good to go. I can't do anything now, but I am able to add a new layer. And our first layer is going to be small tries. Okay, and so this is where I'm going to start working left to right. I'm going to command plus in and show you that working left to right, we start with these smaller tries, and then we'll go on to everything else. And it's not going to be much per layer. It's just the importance of organizing things per layer, and also the importance of labeling your layers. Layers can also help you protect things like accidentally moving something that you didn't mean to move or stuff like that. Okay, so if we come back to the shape tool on our left here and we look, we don't have a direct triangle option, but of course we do have a polygon option, and a triangle is a polygon with 3 sides. So do not click and drag or you'll get a hexagon by mistake. I'm going to Command Z that. We're going to click on it, and it's going to ask me how many sides do I want my polygon? I'm going to do 3. And it's going to give you a random size. It doesn't matter. Let's just dumb it down so it's not huge to start with at 100. Okay? Still bigger than I need, and it's also the last gray I've used. So we need to go up to the colors up here and go ahead and select white. Okay? Now this is a very important type of triangle. It is an equilateral. Okay, so all angles and sides are equal. Okay, and that is what we're going to play with today for the sake of doing too much math and manipulation. But I'm kind of putting this in place if you look right about here, but it's still big. So what I'm working with is I have a fill of white and a stroke of none. And I'm going to hold shift, because if I don't hold shift and I hold nothing and I go to scale this, you'll see it just freely scales and it kind of takes it out of the the equilateral triangle. So I can hit shift and that'll just scale it in and out. Okay, but holding option and shift at the same time will scale from the center and out. Okay, so we'll do that. And now the next triangle we have is the opposite, as it's a fill and no fill, and a stroke. So I could go in and create another triangle with my polygon tool, but I am just simply going to go and hit option and drag it over. Now, if you hit option and shift, it'll say on the same plane or to a relative angle of the original one. But always make sure when you do this to duplicate an image that you let go of your mouse or trackpad before option, because that'll create a second one. However, if I do this and let go of option, it just moved the first one. So I'm going to Command Z, Command Z. And let's just move this one. Perfect. And now we're going to use the edge of this band. This is like a band around each individual shape or component of a design. And when you get to the edge here, it gives you corner arrows that allow you to spin this. Now spinning it without holding shift kind of gives you meaningless direction. And I need it 180, so holding shift now, it gave me 180. I'm going to bring this down, and I do need to scale it down a bit. So option shift, and you're good to go. And we can use our arrow keys left and right to kind of scoot it where we want it. Now, as far as flipping the design, we could go up here and use these tools, or right down here is a great way of flipping between the stroke and the fill. Okay, so I do recommend when you're still designing for video, even in today's day and age, 1 point stroke is a little too thin for it to come across nicely. So we're going to up it to 3 for safety. However, if you have experiences where it is a time using a 1 point stroke, go for it. Okay. Okay, I just want to make that smaller and like that. And again, not going for anything super out of the ordinary. So I'm going to take this before we move on, and I'm going to do just a Command C, and that is, of course, copy. Now I'm going to lock small triangles, and I'm going to go over here to my third one, and I'm going to type in big try. Okay, so here I'm going to do Command V for paste, and it looks like it kind of just arbitrarily pasted this little triangle. But what actually happened is that is the perfect center of my creation board. So I don't know who that helps, but that's where it went. And now I'm going to bring this over. And because these are vector shapes, okay, vector meaning it is a mathematical algorithm that makes it, I'm just going to hold shift because I don't want to do it through the middle, and I'm going to bring this out till it's the big try I'm looking for. Okay? And this is why we also want to lock other layers, because we don't want to have the layer interfere with what we're doing. Before I go any further, that's literally all I need for this one, is I'm going to Command C to copy this triangle, lock this layer, create a new one, and for right now we're going to call it dots try. Okay? This will be a triangle that you will fill with a swatch. A swatch is a pattern, and we're going to create a very simple one. You can see that in the visibility of this pattern here. This is dots, and that's normally what we go with, but I'm always open to whatever shape you want to do when it comes time to make that. Okay, so here I go with the dots try, and I'm going to do Command Shift V, and that pastes the triangle in place from where I copied it. So really quick, Command Shift V. Did I copy it? Let me go make sure I copied that. I apologize. Okay, copy, lock the layer, go into dots, and Command Shift V. There we go. And see, it was a green layer down here. The layers are color coded, and now we have more of a bluish purple. Okay, and so there is another thing on there, and that'll come into play later. So this is an easy way to have things exactly where you want them. I'm going to continue. I'm done with that for now. And I'm going to go to layer 5. If you double click or click too many times, the layer options come up. And we'll change 5 to medium try. And we will just go with that. Okay, and now I'm just going to do Command V because I still had that one pasted, and I'm just going to use it again to hold shift at the corner, rotate it to 0 degrees, and now I'm going to Option Shift and drag in from the corner to make a medium triangle. Okay, not sure how big I needed to have it, but there we go. So we're getting through these triangles pretty quick, which is great. And then we're going to add some things to it. So I'm on layer 6 now, and layer 6 is actually a line. In Illustrator, there's a few ways of making a line, like the pen tool here, or the line segment tool, and that's what we're going to use right now. It's nothing fancy. And we're just going to come down and do not hold shift for this. Okay, so I made my line, and I made my medium triangle, but I realized as I look upon it, I need to change a few things. So I'm going to go with first my medium triangle, and I'm going to unlock that. And I'm just going to scoot it over. Okay. And then I'm going to go to my line and scoot that over. Okay. And what I'm looking for is like kind of the same space here between here and here. And it just seems minimal now that I can just use my arrow keys, and 2 clicks looks great to me. Okay, and you can see that down here. Even if I wanted to back down a click or 2, we can do that and kind of get this cool edge right there. All right, so we'll lock that. We'll lock the lines. And in class, I normally joke, which area would you like to go first? Would you like to go with the swatch or the banners? The answer is always the swatch. So we're going that way. But first, we're going to look up here, and I'm just going to scroll in so you can see it. There is a little bit of an asterisk here, and that means that we either have not saved yet or we haven't saved since recent changes. So we're going to do Command S. And then that brings us up to what we want to save. So I'm just going to throw this on my desktop. You can save it wherever is best for you. And then we're out. This is a compatibility thing. It's okay just to hit it up like that. So this is done, and we're going to leave this open, but we're going to do new. And I'm just looking. Okay, so I'm taking this, right? Or we can find it again in film and video. But I don't need all the pixels. I really just need to downsize because I'm just making a pattern to add to that triangle. So I do 600 by 600, okay? And we're going to leave everything else go, and we're going to create this, okay? This is odd. I'm going to not use this one. I apologize. And let me try this again. New. This is not good. So I'm not getting the results I want out of the pattern I want, like the one I have here. And I'm just curious as to why. So let's do Command N or new again. Oh, because it defaulted to web large. That's not cool. Illustrator gets kind of goofy with that type of stuff. So I'm going to change this, and I'm just going to call it swatch. Okay, if I spelled swatch right, that would be helpful, right? There we go. It's swatch, and then underscore AVT. And then I am going to just change this down to 600 pixels by 600 pixels. The less data we need to convert into a swatch, the better. Okay, so that's why we do that. And then this should be good. Let's check it out. Nope. Okay, and so the reason I'm saying nope is that it's a web thing, and I'm not sure what's up with it. So if I go to this one, there we go. We'll just use this custom one. You saw what I was doing before, but it was acting kind of funny. So I'm going to close that, and I'm just going to go save this right away, and I'm going to call it swatch AVT. And then it's going to warn me, I think. Okay, we're good. And so in here, we're going to create our swatch. Now, the last few classes have gone differently. Of course, you can use any of the shape tools you want to create a swatch, stuff like that. We've used the star tool, squares, different things like that. I'm going to go with the typical circles. Now, the reason I wanted this grid pattern, which is the default grid pattern, it is also a, it's allowing me to know, excuse me, it's the transparent grid. And I want to make this transparent grid the backdrop of the swatch. Now, the only thing with it is if you've found out that you can zoom in and out with your mouse and cursor, then you'll realize it's not. It just keeps flashing at you. So this is where we absolutely need to use plus and minus, and then perhaps the hand tool, okay? And so I'll start up in this corner, and I'm going to just make a circle, and to do that, I'll do Shift Option, and I'll make a circle from the inside out, a dot, if you will. Now, I don't need the stroke. I would prefer no stroke on that, and there I have my first dot. Now, relatively speaking, I don't know how big or small it is yet, but what I can do is kind of place it here and go up to Object, Repeat, and we're going to want Grid. And this is going to make a whole grid of our dots. Excuse me, sorry about that. So if you go in here, we see these long handles. We can move them all the way over. Okay, now I don't like things coming off the edge, and I also realize that I need to make sure that I make these dots a little bit smaller. And so once they're built out, what I can do is double click on any dot. That just happened to be the first dot. When I do that, it takes me into a sub-layer. So in order to get out of this, we need to make sure we hit the back arrow twice. So we're back on the even thing. But once I'm in the sub-layer, I can go into here and I can shrink my dots, and all of them will follow. Okay, so that's too tiny. 4x4 looked great, right? Awesome. Oops, my bad. Sorry. Okay, and then when we can go in here, and it's not going to do anything. I have to hit back. And now I'm here, and I can click on anything, and I can still get the handles. Okay, now the handles only, excuse me. The handles only seem to be on those, and I want to move this all up a bit. So what is this going to do? Oh, that's going to give me different things. I didn't realize that. Cool, we learned. Okay, so maybe I just move this. It's like an entire entity, like a colony. There we go. And once we're done playing with that, I'm going to scoot these guys back in. We can come over here, and down here under your properties is excuse me, I'm just going to collapse them, is how many do you want? How many do you want in a row? Maybe I only want 9. That's 7, okay. How many pixel space, excuse me, and then I'll do 8. And then grid type. Do you want it in a 4x4 grid, a brick by row, or brick by column? And brick by column is definitely my favorite. The rest of these won't matter. Flipping a dot around isn't going to really change anything. Okay, so I didn't mean to do that, sorry. I zoom out. We're hoping for the best. Now we need to go up here. Okay, so we go into swatches and we open this up, and check this out. When this is in completely blue and I'm done with it, I can drag it up here and drop it into this box, and there's my swatch. Okay, now it's called New Pattern Swatch 1. I have some weird issue when I go to try to change the name, it locks up Illustrator for me. So it's going to live as New Pattern Swatch 1. Here's a library book, so we have to hit and save swatch. Okay, so I am going to go and I'm going to save this swatch as recording dots. Okay, and this is saved inside your library of your Mac. It's kind of difficult to get to. So when we're done here, that's all we needed to do. And we can hit save. And that asterisk went away. We can keep it open if we want. But now we're going to go back into here, and we're back to the overall graphic. And the dots try will unlock. And we're going to go here to swatches, again, like roughly the third one down, and user defined, and we're going to find recording dots. Here they are. Now, it's kind of confusing because there was only one thing before, but I know mine is the last one here, the New Pattern Swatch 1. Okay, so this is what I strongly recommend. When you click on this, okay, click on the edge, there's nothing to capture in the middle, then you're going to double click, on the swatch here. Click, click, and it fills. If yours didn't work and it didn't look right, try making sure that the swatch didn't hit the stroke of it, and that it gets into the fill. You can use the swappers if you need to, and then just remove the stroke, okay? Because I'm going to remove the stroke now. And it's not going to look a lot different because we have the big try underneath it. So I can just deselect it, and wow, my dots look fantastic. Those are some awesome dots. So now we're going to go in and continue with our banners. Okay, so open up our layers and lock dots and hit banners, and 7 is going to be big banner. Okay. And so as I go through this, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to get the rectangle tool, and I'm going to kind of measure it from the middle of this triangle and kind of thick, and I see that the swatch has followed me and I made a triangle. But we know our banner shape is not a triangle. If we look at the demonstration here, it is a equilateral. I just could not have it. A square is an equilateral, a rectangle is an equilateral, and this is an equilateral. Okay, so we're going to have to make that. Now I know this seems a little thick. This is all to eye, so you kind of have to make it exactly the way you want it as you're going. But we know we don't want the dots, so I am going to take the eyedropper tool, and you won't be able to do this if you're following along in Illustrator, but I'm going to eyedrop and get that. Okay, something doesn't seem right. No, that's not right. Interesting. Well, what's going on? Go to appearance. Let's try it from something else. Okay, so sometimes this happens, especially when I'm coming off an image, and that orange is not that orange. I actually know the number, and I'm going to share it with you in a little bit. So I'm going to try to just build a square here, or a rectangle, and do it here, and you can see it's just not working. Because we can tell if we, oops, there we go, that we're in it, that that's just not right. So, well, I fixed this before, so it shouldn't be too bad of a problem. Let's see, first of all, what, because we had issues with different things, what color mode we're in. We're in RGB, okay. We go to Document Setup. Okay, everything's good. So that got red. Nope. So this doesn't want to give off the correct thing. Okay. Well, bear with me as we work together to figure this out. I mean, I can always just take random colors, but oops, I didn't want it to disappear. Let me see. So I seem to have unlocked it, and no, it's not going. I'm going to embed. So if you have an image, sometimes you can embed it. Okay. And new features. And I just want to see if that changes anything. That did change something. So this only happens to me every once in a while, but that's the orange we want. That's not the orange we want. Okay, so we'll delete that, and then I'm going to lock this one because it shouldn't need to be unlocked. And we're going to touch this back to the eyedropper tool and select it. Perfect, that's the orange. And so I double click on here, and the orange we got is FFA 508. FFA 508, you just copy and paste, well, you don't have it to paste, but you go into your color picker and you will just type in FFA 508, and that will give you the color that you're looking for. Okay. Now, if it is not the color you want to work with, that's cool. I just want you to get used to the color picker. But now that we have that done, I'm going to go up here and we're going to see what we can do to make this the the parallelogram that it is. And so we know that we need these perfect angles, and they both need to be skewed in a parallel direction. So the trick of it is actually going to our polygon tool and investing in triangles. Okay. Now, we don't want the triangles, we don't want the triangles to be the same color because we need to see the difference. So I just gave it a green hue. The triangles are only temporary, but if I'm looking at the example, we need to cut from top going in down to the bottom. So I'm going to leave this triangle like this. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in and get really tight, and let me see, can I get the this iteration of Illustrator is driving me crazy. So I want that perfectly in, and it says it's there. Okay, it's there. Now we need to take the same thing, and if you remember from earlier, we're going to click on this and we're just going to hold Option, but we see in order to cut the other path, we need to flip it. Okay, and here we go. We're going to take this up, and we're going to zoom in because we need to make sure that that line just boom. Okay, that one was easy. Now, there's two different ways of doing it. We made this really cool, interesting shape tool. And so one way of doing this is to select it all and go to Window. Now it's alphabetical here, to Pathfinder, and then there's several different modes. Unite, minus front, some other things, but minus front sounds pretty good. And if we do that, look, we get the parallelogram. Okay. So that's a very typical tool that you can find with many different designing applications. The fun tool is right over here. It's called the Shape Builder tool. And we're going to click on that. And let me just dive in here for a moment. It's mad at me that I don't have anything selected, so I need to select my triangles. And then I'm going to get the Shape Builder tool. Okay, and again, I'm just going to go in for a moment and see it's a plus. So I can add all these shapes together, or if I hit Option, I can minus the different shapes just like this. Okay, so this would allow me to delete that end and delete this end. Now I'm going to zoom out so it doesn't look so yucky like that. And then you are good with that. So the Pathfinder tool is very basic and can do what it wants, but the Shape Builder tool will really make things a lot more interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and place this over here, and it's kind of big, but I might leave it because I can't just shorten it. I can scale it down just a littlest bit. So I'm going to take the corner and I'm just going to scale it just a littlest bit like that. Or the angles will change, and that's not what we want them to do. And let's tuck over here, and that seems to be pretty good. Let's click off of it. I'm just lining it up with that, okay? So our layers now are not necessarily in a row, but we will get to that in just a bit. All right, so we're going to lock that layer. And then we're going to go to our next layer, layer 8, and double click, and we're going to call this small banner. Okay, and I'm going to actually go back, unlock big banner, copy it, Command C, lock it again, Command V. I didn't mean to do that. That was warning me that I was about to I was trying to paste something on a locked layer, which is part of the point. So it protected me. And then I'm just do V. Okay. Now we know that for the small banner, it's going to be much smaller. So let's just hold Shift and make it smaller. And we need to get the color of it. So we'll come down here and I'll grab a color here. And for you, that color is, double clicking on the picker, 0198EE. Okay. 0198EE. Click OK. All right, so now I got what I need. However, it is not the opposite way. And I need to have that. And so rotating it won't work or anything like that. We need to come up to Object. Oops, we need to select the object, of course. Come up to Object and Transform, Reflect. Now what's actually kind of cool with this is it can reflect horizontally or vertically with this specific shape, and you'll never notice the difference. If you're copying it to reflect, you can hit copy, but we're actually reflecting the original thing here, so we're good. And now let's go in here. I'm going to go in, and I think I just need to scale this down just a bit, just only holding Shift, going in, and then I'm going to just scoot it over with my arrow keys, scoot it one more time, and it looks great so far. Okay, so the next two layers will be our name and our title, and we're going to lock this for now. We'll go to our name, and of course you can put your name or any fictitious name you like, but we're just going to use the basic titling tool. So this allows us to draw out a box in which we can type simple things in. It was that default text before. So now on our properties, you might have to come a little bit lower and you'll see character. And here's Madrid Pro, which is not a great font. It's the default Adobe font. I have tons and tons and tons of fonts. If you go up to your Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Creative Cloud, you'll be able to browse for more fonts under the F right here. So there's a lot to it. So one I've been working with lately is this Mundial. Maybe I'm saying that right. And then I did that. Now it's small, of course, so we can go ahead and get a preview of what it looks like. Just make sure you have the text selected, because everything I just did not change. Mundial, and then we want it demi-bold. And now, so again, please have the text selected. I can have my name pretty big, bigger if I want, but there we go. Now, a lot of times when you're dealing in paragraphs and stuff like that, you can center, justify, but this also has an area type, and you can center, justify. So this is putting my text in the center of the text box, okay? And it's really nice because I can move it. First, I'm going to go ahead and select all this text, and I don't want it black. I'm going to change it to white, okay? Now, click off of it. Do not hit V as a shortcut for going back to the selection tool because V will just be typed out. Okay, so we have that. Now the next thing I want to do is my name needs to pop. And before, it was very difficult to add effects to actual live letters. You had to convert them into shapes. But I'm going to click on this appearance. It's like a little sun right here. And I have my character box selected. Don't have your character selected, just the box. And go and hit the FX button. And you can come down here and see Illustrator and Photoshop effects. So we're going to go into our stylize and just add a simple drop shadow. Okay. So I don't like my drop shadows coming off strong. I like them nice and tight. So I might do 3 there and 3 there. I'll actually switch that, give that 3 and this 2, and bring the blur down to like, that's fine. I don't really like the blur on a drop shadow. I want it to like pop. I don't want it to be like casting a shadow. And then there's the blend mode. So it'll come with the best one, but like if we do screen or something like that, because of the orange behind it, it's not going to do much for us. Okay. So might up each one of these. There we go. And we look at it. Oh, I'm sorry, hit OK. And we look, and it looks great. Okay. Now, what if I wanted to take what I have here and make this use a little bit more room? Well, I can come down to this here to V/A. And if you go up, it's going to be your kerning for enlarging the space between your, there's a 25. Enlarging the space between your characters. Okay, no, it's all an art form. So whatever you want, kerning can be a great thing, and it can be used poorly. But now we have an effect on that. I'm going to close up our appearance there, and we're going to go into here and make our next lock that. Next that, and here's our final layer of title. Okay. So same thing, we're going to start with the type tool. And this one you can type pretty much over all of it. The other one, you're going to need to make sure you avoid the line and stuff like that. But it's already showing me that it's my previous text I used was too big. So let's bring it down here. And let's just start at 24 for right now. And I'm going to write AVT course, course director, there we go, okay, and we'll make that white while we're here. And then it's justified that way, but I want it justified in the middle. There it goes, okay. Now, it's really important to not always use the same font over and over again. Use complementary fonts, and that is difficult for many people, including myself. So, you know, maybe I had a thick one before, and then I go and I have a thin one like this. Of course, if I have a thinner font, I'm going to boost it up in size. Not that big. There we go. 48. And it looks great. So I can still move this. Oh, I do have it locked, of course, but I can still move this so it's kind of over. And maybe I can even drag this out a bit. And then I can select the text. And 72 is where it ends, but we can always go in and type. Let me see what I have here. Okay, point 80. And maybe 85. 85. That didn't seem like much of a jump, but it was good. Okay, so now this lower third is really popping. 2 more things to do. We're going to go ahead and lock name. We're going to go back to small banner, And we're going to talk about adding a gradient to this blue. So a gradient, when used lightly, is a very effective tool in order to take one color to another color and make it a kind of change. Harsh gradients are not fun or kind of out of style. So to begin this, we simply select this and we can come down and we'll see a gradient tool right here. Don't use this one. At least don't start with it. We're going to come over to this side and you'll see another gradient tool. And we'll click on that. And this is going to help us build the initial gradient. The other tool really helps put things into place, but I'm going to take the blue part and bring it down to here. So I have 3 stops. I have a white, a blue, and a black. Well, I don't need the black, so I can simply click and drag it off. But I want the white over on this end, so I can drag it there and the blue over on this end. And then in between there's a location, a gradient slider. And I can move that so it's tighter blue up against the white. There's different types of gradients too. We're working with a linear gradient. There's a radial and a freeform that do take a special talent to make sure that those are really good gradients. Gradients are also used to change the opacity of something, so we can literally fade the content out. And at any point, I can just come on here and click and double click then. I added another point and it will give me a color scheme to deal with. And I'm just going to make this a little bit more rich in the I want it not so purple. Maybe I'll go too far. There, that's pretty much what I have. Can I back that up? Wait, if I just do that to you. No. Okay. So it's fun to still play with the colors. Like, there we go. That's a nice one. Of course, you can use your color picker. You can use different swatches. And you can see even here, this is now a gradient fill. Okay. So I want this more smoothed out between the two of them. And then this one more like that. And then I'm going to let go and take a look. Looks great. You know, I changed it month to month, but that one looks fantastic. Now we're on to the last step. Well, let's finish up gradients real quick. If we selected, go ahead and hit V, hit select here. And if we selected this gradient tool, it would be the same line here, but justified on the actual thing. So I can move it per the text perhaps, or like really make sure I don't wash out the white there, things like that, okay? But I think we did a great job. We'll hit V again, okay? Now, the last thing is when we were building all of this, it did not, it was not in a specific order, okay? It was just left to right, as I mentioned. And I need to change that. So I'm going to go into our layers and we'll look one by one. Well, we can lock them and still change them. Title, perfect. Name, great. Banner, banner, but I need this banner behind the line. Big banner, right? So let's move big banner. Well, what do we need it behind? A line, medium try, and dots try there. So it kind of gives you that cutting in look right there. And honestly, that's all it needs. So now we have our finished lower third, and it looks brilliant. I love it. What we would do is take this off and we can export it. Now, from anyone who's watching this, all I really need to do is see a screenshot of your work. But if you want to take this further and you want to make this an image, it's very common to want to do so. So we go File, Export, Export As, and then we get to this PNG. So we want to use the artboard. The artboard, again, is the actual screen, the 1920 by 1080 screen. And just in case, we want to do range 1. There might be a second artboard hanging out with you and you're not even aware of it. So we're just going to do the first artboard, okay? Those are all customizable and editable as needed, but just be forewarned about that. Now we can look at all the different outputs, but PNG and TIFF are really the only two that are going to be an image file that'll hold the alpha channel or the transparency. Things like SVG is a vector graphic that could be shared between different applications. And then JPEG is going to be a low end thing. Okay, so most of the time I'm using a PNG and I'll hit export. And there it is. You can see the transparency. We'll use screen as the 72 ppi because that's, you don't need more data just to feed a screen. And we can click OK. And then just simply pop out of here really quick, close that out. And then where to go? Where to go? Right here. And you can see that it has the alpha channel behind it. So once you get to that point, you are all set and you can hand in, submit under week 3 graphic production. Okay, thank you for watching. If you have further questions, of course, let me know. And beyond that, I will stop record and talk to you later.